Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.
The Neverworld Palace is a lot bigger on the outside than inside. These are rather tiny and sparse accommodations for an overlord. Our protagonist, Prince Laharl, I said it that way because it ends in an RL. Fun and hard to say. His father passed away and now, after a 2-year sleep, he's in charge of the Neverrealm. A job that's less administration and ruling, and more eliminating threats to your reign. Demons, angels, and humans, who seem to have a pulpy 60s sci-fi design. At least when it comes to their own design. Something more sedate and futuristic for their architecture. Already stylistically, the game is rather strange. As we've seen, the Overlord's castle has a spooky, wacky look, as do some of the monsters. And I felt their design was quite unique, at least in general. I'm guessing in comparison with other NIS games, you'll see more similarities. The design may feel old hat, if for no other reason than Disgaea, and I'm opting to pronounce that in the way I heard it on the English trailer, is the first game in a franchise of 6. But it feels fresh to me because this is the first one I've ever played. And it's been a while since I've played any NIS game. At least 2 years, I believe. But I believe they managed to create their own kind of weirdness. And I like the way Laharl was designed with his long flowing scarf and Sonic shoes. Anime drawings and sprites. Sure, it gets a bit tropey here, with Etna and Jennifer's scantily clad design. Sure, it's not combat effective, but in all fairness, Laharl's wearing a scarf and shorts. And Etna looks cool in spite of it. It's an odd hodgepodge. On the graphical side of things, it has aged. The sprites have rough edges, yet still look cool. Their color palette is kind of pale, though. The terrain, though, has quite an unpleasant quality. I honestly feel like pixel art would have looked better here. The 3D looks a bit grating, but fortunately you tend to focus more on the gameplay, so the terrain tends to act more like a staging area for your combat. That sometimes impacts your strategy, and musically the game is good as well. Also kind of a hodgepodge, to fit with the whole tonal seesaw of the game. It has battle music that skews more towards the upbeat and playful. More epic stuff. And at times it gets sappy. The music tends to adhere to that spooky, wacky feel I was talking about. Committed to being mischievous and scoring the journey of a character that truly believes he's the villain, but is ultimately lovable yet gruff. Weird and unique, if also it does at times get a bit tropey. And I believe the story is enjoyable, but not for everyone. Because first of all, there are quite a few heavy-handed, sentimental moments in it. That mushy music plays on various occasions. Where Laharl detests the idea of love, doesn't believe in it. Love is for fools. He may have a Grinch-like moment of growth along the way. And also does have some corny staples when it comes to comedy. Laharl is scrapping for a fight, but none of his staff take him seriously. He even has a reoccurring villain that's presented as pathetic, who tries to cover up his failure. The game does have funny moments though, such as some of Etna's next time segments, and sometimes the humor goes downright absurd. Based on what you've seen and what I've told you thus far, I highly doubt any of you are expecting this unless you've played the game.
A horse wiener? Now, that's dangerous! Guys, don't let your guard down!
So it can be enjoyable. Sure, it has tropes, kind of cliche, but it's long and winding. It's weird, it's got a lot of chapters, you have to fight a lot of weird people, follow some weird tangents sometimes, maybe even reminiscent of a shonen anime filler episode. You'll meet some lovable weirdos, and come to care about them if you let your guard down. Let the sentimentality pierce your heart. Revel in the absurdity. That's the best way to appreciate the story of the game. But in all fairness, perhaps I'm stereotypically weeby. Sure, sometimes I'm a ghoul, but other times I'm a complete softie. I'm a gooey jelly at times, which is funny because in this game you don't fight one single slime. The game even has multiple endings, although they don't warn you of this early on. And they're based on how many allies you've killed. And in this sort of game, sometimes there's strategic benefit to killing an ally, when they're say close to an enemy and you want to use an area attack, or sometimes you just accidentally kill an ally. I had no idea this was a thing. I believe I killed one ally one time for the sake of expediency. And that meant the best possible goody-goody ending was unavailable to me, according to the walkthrough. It also says there's an evil ending, but I believe that requires multitudes of slain allies. Lastly, the gameplay. The combat is turn-based. How far a character can move is determined by their stats, and different stats are more important for different characters. Use your special abilities, magic 'em, heal 'em, fight 'em, or even the simplest ability as Supreme Spectacle. There are campaign story levels, and you gain experience by killing enemies. You level up and you become stronger, and as you get further in the story levels, you'll encounter stronger enemies, so grinding is required at times at the very least. You can create new teammates of various classes, maybe even a monster. Get new equipment, use that equipment to improve your weapon skill, and unlock new weapon skills that you can use with that weapon type. And then you can improve those weapons by going inside of them into the item world, and defeating a bunch of procedurally generated levels. Or simply by making it through them, but I believe the benefit is then decreased. I have no idea how many levels a weapon has, and this is available for each and every one of them. No, every single piece of equipment even. Defeat a specialist in the weapon to allow you to equip it on that weapon or a different one and improve its stats. Engage with the Dark Assembly and essentially propose a law that will benefit you. Which is weird. Laharl is an overlord. I assumed this was an absolute monarchy. Not a constitutional one. Some of the voters will like the idea, others won't. Even though every single thing you vote on has nothing to do with them. Except maybe improving the shops, and even then they may reject it. But all is not lost, you can bribe them. Or fight them. They'll be harder to please next time, and sometimes they're rather beefy. But if you're strong enough and you can and want to handle that, go right ahead. And then, after all the leveling up of a character, transmigrate them to, I believe, improve their base stats and improve the rate of leveling up, increasing the speed and potency of gains, but resetting them to level 1. And this is the possible benefit that if you've mastered a skill and can afford the best possible inheritance rate, the character can inherit those skills after transmigration, even if you've chosen a new class for them. So theoretically you can end up with a character with all the possible skills, or at least close to it. That is a lot to wrap your head around. After one playthrough, I reached a fairly low level, especially when you consider that the level cap is 9,999. This game is for grinders. All those mechanics that, once you understand them, give you the opportunity to grind and improve, and theoretically play this game for a very long time. I obviously didn't make full use of the game. I'm not adept with the grindstone. But if you are, or you need to squeeze every single hourly drop out of a game, maybe because you don't have many games available to you, then this game, its sequels, and probably a lot of other stuff from the NIS catalog could possibly be for you. At least worth a try if you've never played this kind of game. I mean, I haven't even talked about Geo Symbols and the merits of stacking enemies on top of each other. I read about it in the walkthrough. It makes grinding easier. Didn't sound worth the trouble to me. If it is a tad amusing, what it would look like if the WWE was made up of blobs that could absorb each other. This game was probably intended for more than my one piddly playthrough. I just stuck around for the story. Sure, I got excited when I got the hang of grinding, but I'm not really the grind for the sake of grinding type of person. In all fairness to the game though, sometimes the difficulty wasn't due to level disparity, but rather by the presence of Geo Symbols. Yet another complicated mechanic. Some squares are connected to a color, and if one of the Geo Pyramids is on it, its benefit or burden is transferred to everyone located on a square of that color. such as more attack, less defense, silence, and a lot of times they make things harder by making enemies invulnerable or cloning them, but sometimes they have the potential to make things more fun, because when they're destroyed, they could potentially lead to a devastating chain reaction, through planning or accident. That just looks lovely. Sure, if you weren't aided by the procedural generation, then setting this up can be quite a faff. But when the opportunity is there, it's quite brilliant. Quick side note though, the procedural generation of this game can sometimes create item world levels that are not traversable, sometimes resulting in gaps so large that enemies can't even be thrown to the other piece of land. And thus you can't kill all the monsters on the level, meaning you have to proceed to the next one. A single playthrough took me 53 hours. And I made use of some of the grinding amenities, but only until I became bored or got what I needed to progress in and eventually complete the standard campaign. But if you're a grinder, theoretically you can glean a whole lot more hours from it than I did. Maybe this game is for you. The game is cheap on Steam, 219 Rand full price, 43 Rand 80 on sale. That's 83 cents per hour of gameplay, which is excellent. And to download it isn't that bad, as it only takes up 1.57 gigabytes on the hard drive. Not the best I've ever seen, but it's not that bad. And it does work on the Warhorse quite well, perhaps predictably. When you consider its age, there was some mild screen tearing though, and during a hurricane slash there was a bit of a stutter, but other than that, it played fine. Stereotypically, it's kind of kid-friendly. It's not really bloody. There was a pool of blood on the ending I got, but other than that, I think it was okay. But Laharl does use the M word to refer to someone's height, I believe, and there are moments of suggestive humor. And maybe one or two revealing outfits if that's a problem. Some kids could probably handle it though. The game kind of has a unique premise and world building. It's quite the hodgepodge, and stylistically it's also quite unique. Weird character and enemy design, also kind of a hodgepodge, but I do admit in a way that not all people will like. The game also has a lot of cool mechanics for grinders to sink their teeth into, especially if you intend to level up your characters to level 9999. But do beware, these mechanics can be a bit complex for some of us, especially if you're not a grinding kind of person. I mean, just look at all these tutorials you can go through. And the game has good music. Most tracks are mischievous in tone. In all fairness, some of the tracks may go a bit cliché at times. For instance, the recurring rival music, and other times it can get sappy and tonally weird. On the maybe side, the story is a tonal seesaw that goes sappy, cliché and corny at times. I liked the story and was open to that sort of thing, but I suppose stereotypically I'm a bit weeby. Other people will downright hate this sort of thing, if for no other reason than it does go stereotypically shown in anime at times, just with fewer flashbacks. But I do maintain some parts can be funny and touching. Also on the maybe side, grinding is arguably the main draw of this game, and some grinding is actually required to complete it. So if you hate grinding, this game is not for you. On the con side, the graphics have aged, and can come across a bit grating. Especially the 3D terrain. The sprites do hold up better though, if edgy. Also, the procedural generation of the item world levels will sometimes produce a level where it's impossible to reach all of the enemies. And plus gambling and thinking, okay, I can survive another item world level, can be quite deflating when you die. But I suppose that's self-inflicted. Come on, play it, and see a different take on Happy Feet.
Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.